Say hello, I'm John Kane, and I welcome you to Let's Talk Native on this Tuesday, August 27th. While this program may not provide a path to spiritual enlightenment, we do encourage and in some cases start conversations. We don't do prayers and we don't do buffalo speeches. We take a tough look at history, oppression, and survival. We talk about culture, the arts, politics, and identity. And we may step on a few toes along the way, but our real goal here is to bring people together by breaking down what separates us. We will take on the false narratives and provide critical thinking to all that is heaped upon us. And we do it all right here from the Cattaraugus territory of the Seneca Nation. So let's talk Native. But first, let me remind people that our audio streams live at www.letstalknative.com. And we stream live video of the show on our Facebook Live, or on our Facebook group pages via Facebook Live. Our shows are available as podcasts on your favorite platform right after our show. And we take the video of our show and we post it up on our YouTube channel, which is Let's Talk Native TV. I encourage you to subscribe to our podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can catch a lot of our videos. In fact, I'll mention at the top of the show a couple of videos that you should take a look at in particular. But again, I am the host of the Let's Talk Native, and I am assisted in studio by Jake Proud, who is managing our video and our sound. All right, before I get to the main topic, a couple of things. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was in town, and of course, the media, just fawned all over her, and they gave her an honorary degree, like an 87-year-old Supreme Court justice needs an honorary law degree. Go figure. But anyway, so I think people have to be reminded, though, that for all the liberal darling that people want to make her out to be, she's taken some very conservative and frankly racist stance when it comes to Native issues. And two rulings in particular come to mind is one where she wrote the opinion, which is about the Oneidas, City of Sherwood versus the United Nation. She actually cites the doctrine of Christian discovery. And if you look at our video on Legally Invalid, it's called, Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the Doctrine of Discovery, I encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, Let's Talk Native TV, and look for that video. Look, the facts are what the facts are. And I just kind of lay them out in that video. So take a look at that. And it might at least make you hold Ruth Bader Ginsburg to task, because not everything she's done has been great for humanity, and for all the raving over her stance on human rights, and not so much when it comes to Native people. The other ruling that she ruled with the majority on was over trademarking racial slurs, which was indirectly validates the Washington football team and their use of a racial slur for their team. So those are two cases that that just come to mind, and they're not the only ones, but they're two that come to mind. Another video that's worth taking a look at, since Mark Charles has all of a sudden gotten a bunch of attention because he got to participate in that candidates forum put on by the Native Candidates Forum anyway, and so he's got a lot of coverage on it. But look, I did an interview with Mark Charles. You can find that interview on my YouTube channel as well. And, it's funny because one of the comments afterwards suggested that I interrupted him. And I had to respond. I said, look, this was an interview. It wasn't a campaign commercial. And the whole idea is to hold him to task and to ask him tough questions and that kind of thing. So, look, if you want to listen to somebody go on and on about, propping themselves up, then you can watch his videos. But if you want to listen to a candidate, a guy who's throwing his hat into this ring and putting himself out there, if you want to hear him being held to task, then listen to my video. So anyway, those are two videos worth checking out. All right, today we're going to talk about the Thruway because it's all over the news. I got my good friend Matt Hill joining me in studio. We've had some experience, going way back. You've had some experience with the Thruway, and recently, more recently, you and I have had some not only some conversations, but some participation in conversations over the Thruway. But the interesting thing here is this isn't about, most of the time, the battle over the Thruway is something that I talk about all the time, which is why should they have unfettered access through our territory to conduct their commerce when guys like Eric White are getting his trucks pulled over by the state. That's not the issue here. The issue here is there's about a 2.5, almost 3 mile stretch of the Thruway that crosses Seneca territory, and the state won't fix it, and it's just gone to absolute crap. There's chunks of of asphalt and potholes. They've literally lowered the speed limit from a 65-mile-an-hour speed limit and they've got those yellow signs up warning people to slow down to 45 because of rough road. Now, there was a few reasons that this kind of was happening, and a lot of this has directly to do with the fact that the thruway is on an easement that the Senecas gave to the state and got robbed over. I think they got $70,000 for a right of way for an easement. Now, to be clear, that land is Seneca land. They didn't give up the title to the land. They just gave an easement. And of course, this was never supposed to be a toll road that was supposed to stay a toll road forever. So the state's making money off of this road. And again, their commerce is going through it. And so the Senecas have raised issues about this thing. And so there's been some tension over the thruway anyway. But what's happened recently is that the governor, in his effort to extort gaming revenue out of the Seneca Nation, has now tied his refusal to repair the thruway to the gaming revenue. And has basically said he is not going to fix the thruway until the Senecas, almost like an ultimatum or an extortion kind of thing, I'm not going to fix the thruway until the Senecas pay up on this revenue sharing. And so he's connected them to, and he's actually gone so far as to say that he doesn't want to give the Senecas an excuse not to make the payments.
I didn't understand that.
No, it doesn't make it. There's no understanding it. It doesn't make sense. But here's the thing, Matt, you and I have talked about this. Don't fix the damn throughway.
Yep.
We don't use it anyway. I mean, you're not hurting us by having that section of the road. Look, if we go to Buffalo, we don't get on the throughway early. We get on the throughway in Angola.
That's an extra 50 cents or something like that.
It costs more, and you got to drive through a crappy section of the road. But
you go to Erie, you get on Silver Creek, and go the other way.
So there's a whole section of the throughway that we never use, which is the section that goes through Seneca territory predominantly, and anybody can get off the throughway at the Angola exit if they're heading west, or at the Silver Creek Irving exit if they're heading east or north, whatever way you want to look at it. I mean, you can take Route 20, and in fact, one of my suggestions is put up 2 big billboards, rent a billboard space, and put a billboard at the Irving Silver Creek ramp or at the Eden Angola ramp, and tell people get off the throughway, get off, don't save your car. Warning: hazardous road ahead. Welcome to Seneca territory. Drive through our territory. Visit our shops. That kind of stuff. I mean, frankly, if people got off the throughway, that's better for us. I mean, that's better for business. It's better for Not to mention the fact that the Senecas actually have a big piece of property right at the Irving Silver Creek exit that they plan to develop into a gaming site and that kind of thing. So, you know what? Let the throughway go to crap. And in fact, I'm not saying let's shut it down. I say let the road conditions shut it down. But here's the thing: somebody's got to shut up this congressman, Tom Reed. He's running around. He's trying to play politics.
Make an investigation.
Yeah, he's let's investigate. Governor Cuomo for misappropriation of funds and all kinds of other stuff. Look, I mean, maybe Reed wants the throughway open, but as far as we're concerned, we should have no problem with the throughway going to crap. In fact, there's probably a certain argument you can make at some point that if because of negligence and dereliction of responsibility for the land that they've been given this easement to. For all this time, that perhaps it's time to say, look, if you're not going to take care of the land, we'll take care of it. I mean, the Senecas have some options.
My only concern for that is if the bridge does go down and there's, say, a chemical truck or something, that'd be something I'd be worried about.
Well, and you should be worried about that anyway, right?
Well, yeah.
Look.
That stuff traveling through our territory, it has happened before.
Sure.
Right near the Mile Strip bridge.
And you think about this. I mean, we've talked about this before too. I mean, there's the CSX track, so there's these railways that all kinds of hazardous materials travel on, including bomb trains.
Yep, bomb trains.
And nobody checks in with the Seneca Nation and say, oh, by the way, we've got some hazardous material going through your territory. The Senecas have no idea what is traveling through their territories, neither on the rail, on the interstate, 86 or 90, or on the other highways, 5 and 20. There's all kinds of stuff that crosses through the territory. And they put those restriction signs up on some of the highways, but I don't think anybody's really enforcing the thing. And if it's only weight issue, I mean, there should be a hazardous material issue that people should be concerned about. But I mean, Tom Reed is trying to turn this into something else. He's trying to score political points, and maybe he's even trying to score them with the Senecas. But I'll tell you, and I know Ricky Armstrong has weighed in on this thing, and I think his comments were valid. But I don't think that any of us, and I'm not speaking for Senecas, but I don't think the people who live here should be really pushing to the state to fix the road. To me, it's a reflection more on the governor and on the state than it is on the Seneca Nation. I mean, nobody expects the Senecas to fix that road, and the only way the Senecas would fix the road is if they reclaimed at least some access to it. And there's talk about the Senecas possibly putting up a service station. Even on the median, there's one section where the road gets wide enough they can put one of those ones in the middle. Obviously, Eric White rattled everybody's cages because he looked like he was bulldozing an exit ramp going onto his land by Big Indian. But the Senecas, they've sent in their notices to the state, and they said, you owe us, $379 million in back tolls for the highways, for the cars the vehicles that cross our.
Well, that was a while ago. That's probably higher than that.
Yeah, I think they got a sign up that actually has it listed, but again, that should be a one of those
ticker
board that keeps going up, right? So I mean. Look, I mean, we've got the map behind us here. So there you go. I mean, you look at this. It's not a big section of highway, but it's a critical section of highway. But look, and this, to anybody listening, if you're non-native and you travel the throughway and you think it's an inconvenience, just get off the throughway. I mean, you can take Route 20 and cut through the Seneca territory. Look, you can stop and you can grab a bite to eat at one of the restaurants. You can stop at one of the stores. You can, the road's in much better shape. And you can just get on the next exit, save yourself 50 cents or whatever it is. But and that's good for our economy. If I go back to the good old days when we used to shut roads down, remember that time when the roads were shut down and everybody had to divert through, and we heard from all the businesses how great business was.
Everybody had coolers by the road selling pop and water and chips.
But I mean, I know Tom Reed's trying to score points. I mean, he's a Republican congressman. And he's trying to take shots at a big name governor in Andrew Cuomo. But you know what? Look, I'd rather see Andrew Cuomo investigated for extortion of gaming revenue than whether he fixes the highway or not. And again,
it'll all tie in. It'll all tie in.
And it is tied in. And you know why it's tied in? Racism. And that's what I said in my promo here. There's no question that there's a racism factor here, because I mean, even getting back to the issue with our commerce being interfered with, and talk about Eric White getting a truck pulled over, hauling a native product, native to native commerce. He's a native company. There's a reason. The only reason that they're doing this is because they're trying to assert that we are any different than a New Yorker. That once we leave our territory, that we're not native anymore. So they're trying to eliminate the very idea that we are distinct. I mean, even when you and I made the trip, we talked to George Maziarz in Tim Kennedy's office, and we got them to endorse and sign a letter or write a letter to the revenue commissioner, the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance Commissioner Tom Maddox, saying, look, it's our position that New York State doesn't have the right to interfere with native to native trade. So those are the legislators. That's a Republican and a Democratic New York State senator who write a letter to Cuomo's tax commissioner saying, we need to know what the state's policy on this stuff. And the fact of the matter is, they won't acknowledge that we are a distinct people. That inherently is racist. If you can't recognize, and don't give me this, I don't see color, I don't see race. Yes, you do. But you don't want to acknowledge that we have any distinct rights and any rights to do our own commerce. Oh, let's face it. The state's position is they have a right to tax all the sales on this territory, except for what goes to Senecas. So they even believe that if I go into a smoke shop, because I'm not Seneca, if I buy a carton of cigarettes, that they have a right to collect tax on that. I mean, that's the state's position. They don't recognize in the slightest our distinction, the distinctness of our territories, really. And of course, they don't come in and enforce these laws because they know that it would be a mess to do so. but they still won't concede that those laws don't apply on our territories. They're just not enforceable. So that kind of racism, which lies at the foundation of the attitudes of people like Andrew Cuomo, enables him to take this position on not only the gaming issue, and there's no question that their so-called exclusivity is non-existent. I mean, they've got casinos, they've got racinos, they've got all kinds of gaming happening within the Seneca Nation's exclusivity zone. In fact, they've done all the gaming they could legally do within their state law, even in the so-called exclusivity zone, and still got paid $1.5 billion. And then they want another $1 billion on top of it. So that's not just exploitation, that's extortion. And now you got the governor tying that to his refusal to patch their road, not our road, their road that the Senecas gave them. And when I say gave, for $70,000, excuse me, it was a gift.
I just want to make the point, too, that this isn't the first time that he's done this.
Oh, he did it on the bridges, right?
We did it on the bridges, and we did have a stage set up that we were going to shut the road down. Nobody actually really went on the thruway to shut it down, but they understood it. There was the possibility that we were going to shut it down.
Well, and let's talk about what the conditions of those bridges.
Yeah. Oh, those bridges were awful.
There were chunks of concrete and steel falling on vehicles. If you drove underneath, it was the Mile Strip Bridge,
both, yeah,
the 438 bridge,
yep.
and was just those two,
both
right?
of them, yeah.
And there was so much stuff falling on the bottom side of that. They're literally propping these bridges up with planks.
They had planks underneath to keep the concrete
under a
dropping
concrete
down.
Steel bridge. They were propping it up with planks.
Now, when we demolished the bridges, I had
you were on that job, right?
I was on there with a knocker hitting them, and you didn't hardly have to hit the concrete that hard to get it.
That's how bad those bridges and how dangerous that was. And Cuomo actually got slapped pretty good by it was the Obama administration, right? Or was it Patterson?
I'm not sure. It was I remember the transportation director was out at Evangola State Park just a few weeks after that, and that's when she made the announcement that they were going to repair the bridges.
Oh, it was definitely Cuomo, because I remember Cuomo had a big issue with Rob Porter. Remember how much animosity there was. So, and I think it was the federal government, the Obama administration, literally had to kind of slap Cuomo down and say, "Look, you can't. We're giving you highway funds to fix these very bridges.
It wasn't state money,
and you're not using it." And and I guess that's kind of what Tom Reed's trying to raise the issue here. But for us, it was one thing for them not to fix the bridges that allow us to cross the thruway, because those roads we did use. But as far as the thruway is concerned, don't fix it. Let it keep going to crap. But just remember, it's dangerous. And at some point, just like riding under those bridges was dangerous, there are so many chunks of asphalt that are coming loose on that road. And the ironic part is, do you remember? I mean, what were some of the fines? Remember the fines that they tried to assess when we were burning tires on the thruway for road damage? They were trying to hit people with these ridiculous fines.
Well, they weren't that bad then.
They weren't as bad as they are right now. Yeah. These things are in worse condition because of Cuomo. He should be sued for damage to the highway because of his own negligence.
You know, we don't necessarily have to shut the thruway down completely. How about weight restrictions on the bridge so that we can keep the semis off? I mean, the vehicle traffic, it's going to be a little rough on suspension, but
yeah.
I mean, if you're concerned about the bridges and their weight capacity, that's what thing I should.
Yeah, and I don't even have an idea. Frankly, I didn't even consider the fact that so much of that section of the thruway is a bridge. Yeah, because of the Cattaraugus Creek and that kind of stuff. I'm just looking at the basic condition of the asphalt. But you're right.
My concern is the bridge.
Yeah, that'd be a hell of a plunge for a vehicle to take. Yeah, weight restriction. Maybe maybe like last time we should crawl under there and take some pictures.
That's I was asking who's got a drone.
Yeah,
To me, the biggest thing we should be doing is doing a publicity campaign to inform the people exactly what the conditions of the roads are, what the bridge looks like underneath, what they're traveling across, what the truck traffic is going across, just so they got an idea, just so they don't think that we're just doing this as a political posture. In a sense we are. But
again, between you and I, we don't care if they fix the bridge. We just don't want to see them get hurt.
That's what I'm saying. Educate the people so that they know. That's our best thing that we can do. I
mean, it's funny because a lot of circumstances associated with the whole interstate system was how badly they hurt local economies. And frankly, we never had an economy to damage before, but we do now. Frankly, we're going to do much better if that section of the thruway becomes less traveled, and at the rate it's going, it's going to be impassable. I mean, because it is really getting that bad. Like I said, the thruway is a 65 mile an hour highway, and they've got warning signs slowing you down to 45 miles an hour on the thruway, and it's pretty deplorable. And you know what? The crazy part is, if you're driving in from out west, and you coming into New York and you're coming into Buffalo, this is what you see. This is what you see of Western New York. You see an absolute. And the crazy part is, not only are you seeing an absolute horrendous highway, but you're paying tolls to travel on it. That's the part that's bizarre.
I just seen a thing too that the 90 is one of the top 10 worst interstates in the country.
In general,
yeah.
and the worst section of 90 is section through Seneca.
I mean, they give it like a poor rating or something like a fair rating or something like that.
And it's crazy because, I mean, it generates a lot of revenue. There's a lot of vehicles that travel on that highway, and so the idea that people will literally pay to travel on a highway that's almost impassable is absurd all on its own. But you're right. I think the main reason for documenting the bad condition of the highway, and Tom Reed should have taken this message. He should have given the message to his constituency: don't travel the thruway. Stop traveling the thruway. Not only, take your shots at Cuomo if you want to, but really, if Tom Reed wanted to be responsible, he would be telling his constituency not to travel the thruway. Get off in Silver Creek if you're heading east. Get off in Indian Grove if you're heading west, and then just skip that section, because your governor is making that highway untravelable, and it's dangerous. I mean, like I said, there really is a potential for not only the asphalt to kick up and cause all kinds of problems, but if the asphalt's in that bad a shape, you can only imagine how bad a shape the bridge is. But you're right. We should get some photos, and I do know a couple people who've got some drones. Maybe we'll fly them around, get some videos.
Yeah, we got boats and something we can take a cruise underneath. I know that we're not experts, engineers as structural engineering and stuff, but you can see
big chunks of concrete and metal falling off a bridge. It doesn't take.
You can see deterioration and corrosion.
Well, and like you said, we saw the condition of the two bridges that went over the thruway, and how bad they had gotten.
Those we got pictures of.
And you were involved in the demolition of at least one of them, or both of them. So you saw firsthand when it came down to taking these things apart, just how bad they were. I mean, you have a special insight to that.
They were built in 55, I believe, or 54, 55, somewhere around there. That's when the thruway opened. And an average lifespan of a bridge is 50 years, or that's around the general age of a bridge, and that was past that by 10 years.
Yeah, and this is an area that a lot of salt gets put on the roads because of it's Buffalo. But I mean, the whole history of the thruway is a debacle as far as the Senecas go. I mean, the Senecas were really, really coerced and taken advantage of on the thruway. They literally got paid $70,000 for a highway that has now collected tolls for 60 years. I mean, and it wasn't even supposed to be a toll road for that long. And the worst part about it is, we were never. There's actually language in various treaties that suggests we should never be charged tolls for, once we've given up land for these roads. We weren't supposed to be charged tolls. Yeah, we get charged tolls, except for Willie. Willie's the only person who doesn't get charged tolls. But and I applaud him. And more people should do it. I mean, and of course, there's always a risk that goes with it, and you have to take on that challenge. But the reality is, it's like when you get down to a fight, when you get into court and you say you got to document to me what gives you the right to charge me a toll, and if you put it on the state, jurisdiction issues, any language of any agreement, any consent, they can't ever come up with it.
Well, they never made it good on their promises or the language in the 86.
Oh yeah,
because we were supposed to have free registration for the vehicles.
And even more than that, they were actually going to. The state promised that they would work diligently to recognize Seneca licenses. So Senecas would issue their own plates and their own licenses.
I mean, Oneida does it in Wisconsin.
Yeah, but So I mean, And the thing about the throughway in particular, there's pretty good evidence from correspondence and stuff that the negotiators on the part of the state were laughing at the Senecas. They made light of the fact that they screwed the Senecas so bad. I mean, they joked about, they wanted to come in here and they wanted to charge us more. We got we got this for $70,000, and then they said they wanted a piece of the tolls, and we told them no, so they all just agreed and walked out of it. I mean, it's like they joked about what pushovers the Senecas were. And you know what? Look, we are in a different time now. We have gotten our sense of empowerment back. And we are willing to stand up and fight for issues. We're
educated.
Yeah, we certainly understand contract law. We understand treaty language. We understand again the corruptness of the state government and federal government as well. But hey, we're at the bottom of the hour, so we'll take a break and come back. We want to get on this a little bit more. I think people really have to think about what is the best strategy, and we'll talk a little bit more about strategy when we come back. This is John Kane with Matt Hill. This is Let's Talk Native.
If you drink that water, red blue, red blue, red blue, baby, red blue. Every kind of people got every kind of blues, but a red man's got red blues. All right. My woman left. She took her out of my step. She left town with my best friend. If that wasn't enough, she took my dog and my guitar too. And all she left me was a case of the blues. Red blues, red blues.
This is John Kane, and this is Let's Talk Native. And I want to thank you for listening, and I want to thank my sponsors for helping us get this on the air here. I want to thank Ross and Holly John of the RJE family of businesses. I want to thank Eric White and ERW Enterprises, and I got a couple other sponsors, some more anonymous that help us out with the program. And I want to thank all of you who support the show on a weekly or monthly basis, because that's how we get to do what we do here. Look, we are talking about the Thruway. We're talking about what's now turned into even more of a debacle, because now you got the governor claiming that he won't fix the Thruway because of gaming revenue. Two completely unrelated things, really. But it raises an interesting point, because if the arbitrators who ruled in Cuomo's favor on revenue sharing took the position, and this is what they said in part of the ruling, they said if the Senecas don't pay, then they're getting something for nothing. Well, for one thing, they ain't getting much for anything. I mean, they aren't getting much in the way of exclusivity. But if that's the logic, then what the hell are the Senecas getting out of the Thruway? Because the state's getting access through 3 miles, prime miles of Seneca territory for nothing. They paid $70,000, 60 years ago. And they want to charge us tolls when we travel a section of the Thruway. So, I mean, they've probably made that $70,000 back easy just off of Senecas.
Yeah.
So Senecas. Somebody ought to do this calculation. Senecas have probably paid
we need a mathematician.
way more than $70,000 back to the state than what they got for the Thruway access in the first place, and that's just wrong. So if you're going to use this logic that these arbitrators said, well, it would be absolutely wrong for the Senecas to get something for nothing. Well, what the hell is the state getting? They've been raking in the dollars, and I don't mean just off of tolls. I got to get back to the other issue, which is the fact that their commerce is allowed unfettered access through Seneca territory, Interstate 86, Interstate 90, the
rail
lines 5 and 20. They got pipelines. They got power lines. I mean, look, they have all kinds of access through Seneca territory that we never stop and interfere with, or rarely do, almost never. And yet they're going to claim that we don't have the right to have even native commerce. We're not talking about selling something in Buffalo or selling something in Albany or New York City. We're talking about just doing native to native commerce. So the idea that the state has been raking in billions of dollars of commerce, not just off the Thruway, off the tolls, I mean, but off of the actual commerce. I mean, there's employment. Look, this is the gateway to the to the west from here. There's so much commerce that is coming through on this stretch of highway in particular, and yet we aren't afforded any of that same consideration. So I mean, that's the part that just
we're also part of the Canada road too that goes through Fort Erie.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, if you want to look at license plates on the Thruway, you're going to find a good third of them, or 20% of them, have to be Canadian plates. I mean, there's so many people. I mean, or out of state plates. I mean, the Thruway isn't necessarily the local road of choice. I mean, and again, I've said before, we don't use that section of Thruway at all. I mean, to speak of. I mean, hardly at all. We we may take the Thruway into Buffalo, but we're not going to go west to get on it. So we're not going to catch it in Irving if we live on the Cattaraugus territory. We're going to head out towards the Indian-Angola exit. So we don't use that section. And in fact, most locals would probably not want to pay that toll if they can take Route 20 or 5 or any other route. And that's frankly the message that we should be putting out there loud and clear. Somebody shut Tom Reed up over trying to sue to fix the road. Let the road go to hell. I mean,
it is.
Everybody's saying shut it down. No, we don't need to shut it down.
It's doing it itself.
Ironically, you and I talked. Remember, I had this great idea when we were going. We ought to get a bunch of cars and get on the Thruway, and we just go back and forth from Irving to Eden, Angola, and we'll only drive 45 miles an hour. That'll really piss everybody off. Well, that's what the speed limit's down to. We don't have to do it. They're down to 45 miles an hour now. I mean, again, and so what does Tom Reed do? He actually takes his car and drives that section of Thruway and puts it all up on the internet just to show how bad it really is. And it is pretty bad. I mean,
it's not potholes anymore. They did such a poor job of doing the patching. The patches are
the patches are all gone.
Opposite of the potholes now.
Yeah. The potholes are the smoother part.
Yeah.
It's the chunks of loose asphalt that are the problem. But like, Matt, you make a really good point. The bigger concern should be the condition of that bridge, because if the road is that bad, you can imagine how bad the bridge has to be. And I guess this is again something that somebody's going to have to take it upon. Look, everybody's got 4-wheelers here. Somebody should get down there and shoot some video. So if you're listening to this show and you live on the Cattaraugus territory, get underneath there, take some pictures. And I know a few people have some drones. Get some good pictures.
Borrow a boat.
And again, the reason to do this isn't necessarily, and I'm not saying let's push the governor to fix the throughway. Frankly, I don't care if it's fixed or not. In fact, I'd rather it not be fixed.
If you're going to be filming it or whatever, stay out from under it.
Yeah, don't get hit by anything.
Don't go underneath it.
But I mean, the main reason for checking this stuff out and for advertising this poor condition of the throughway is not necessarily to get it fixed, but to tell people not to travel it. I mean, and that should be the message. Like I said, I'd love to see 2 billboards put up there. And it's funny. I go back to, remember when Bloomberg in New York City,
Cowboy up,
this guy who's now claiming to be anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment guy.
Yeah.
He literally
give it to a blind guy.
He tells a blind guy, the blind governor, get your shotgun and go stand up on the throughway and tell the Senecas who's the boss and who's the new marshal in town. That's the. I mean, it doesn't matter if they're Republicans. It doesn't matter if they're Democrats. And these are all Democrats. I mean, I don't know. Bloomberg may not have been. He's a Democrat now, I guess, but he might have been a Republican then. I don't know. But he's telling a Democratic governor who's legally blind to grab a shotgun, to grab a weapon, and threaten Senecas with it. I mean, it's literally what Mike Bloomberg was suggesting on the throughway. Well, look, you better be careful where you stand on the throughway because you might fall through. I mean, it is really absurd that we can experience this level of racism, and the idea that the governor is willing to publicly say, no, we're going to let the road continue to deteriorate because we don't want them. We're angry with the Senecas, So, and the idea, and this is how illogical this is, that he thinks that this is some sort of strong arm tactic, that he's going to pressure the Senecas into paying by not fixing the throughway. Newsflash, Governor. It's not our road. We don't care if you fix it or not. I mean, in fact, if you don't fix it, we get more business. So let it go.
So how are you understanding how that works with the New York State Thruway Authority? Because it's not New York State's road, from what I understand.
But it's a quasi. Well, it is still a New York State road. I mean, the Thruway Authority is still a state. It's a quasi state agency. Put it that way. So
because I thought it was privately owned.
No, it's not. It's a public entity. It's kind of like the ones that do the power out of Niagara Falls, or the New York Power Authority.
Oh yeah.
See, those are quasi state agencies. And
that's what I couldn't understand, because I was understanding, because I know that when they built it, New York State didn't really have the money to do the interstate, to buy into the interstate system, and so there was a group of investors from New York City that put the money up for the. And
it probably turned out to be like bonds that they actually bought. So it wasn't an investment,
because
in a private corporation.
I know that there's a gentleman that was a big. Hang on.
Oh yeah, he was the head of. Yeah, I mean, just like the Power Authority and the New York State Thruway Authority, they do have somebody
Howard
who's
Milstein.
The head. Milstein. Yeah.
He's like the chairman or whatever of the Power or New York State Thruway Authority.
Yeah. Well, and again, he's one of the wealthiest guys in Western New York, one of the big Niagara Falls big shots. But and the crazy part is the Senecas really could assert their right to, and not just put a toll booth up. I mean, you could do that, but they certainly could create an access and put a rest area and put a service area there, either on one side or the other, or even in the median. There is a section on the northernmost part of the thruway where the median gets wide enough that you could put a ramp. So you build one area that can get both east-west or north-south bound traffic. And the Senecas would do well to do that. I mean, let's face it, those thruway rest areas charge a fortune for everything. I mean, and the Senecas obviously can sell cheap gas and tobacco products. The crazy part, remember, one of the other ones that I loved was, do You remember when Cuomo was suggesting that they could use the rest areas to sell tax-free booze?
Oh yeah, like duty frees.
So here's this guy who's trying to wage war against us for selling cigarettes without New York State tax on our territory, and he wants to use the thoroughfares of the Thruway and other places to sell tax-free booze. Like, booze and driving don't have a problem together. There's no problem there whatsoever.
6 convenient locations on the 90 that you can.
Yeah, in fact, I had somebody who was working on a cartoon at one time. It was going to show one scene where they're cutting the ribbon of these tax-free alcohol stores on the Thruway, and the next scene has New York State SWAT team surrounding a native.
Get them on both sides.
Yeah,
oh, I see.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying is, it shows the complete disconnect between the governor's attitude towards tax-free sales of tobacco that we do and what tax-free sales of booze that he wanted to do. I mean, it's again, we can argue which vice is worse, but there's no question that they're both vices. And I will say that smoking and driving doesn't have as big a problem as drinking and driving does. I mean, at least as far as I understand. But no, but I think it really is important that people really understand that, if you're the non-native public out there, if you think that the governor is somehow, playing his hand well against Senecas, again, the Senecas aren't hurt by the Thruway going to crap. It's everybody else who's got to travel. And in fact, many of you locals around us here don't travel that section of the Thruway that much. But for the people who are coming into the state, for the people who are using this highway system for their commerce and for their work and that kind of stuff, man, you're the one being punished by the governor, of the state of New York. And if you're coming from out of state, just know that when you come through the section of the New York State Thruway that crosses Seneca land, that mess that you're driving through is completely on the governor of the state of New York. That's Andrew Cuomo's mess right there. I mean, and again, I think in some of the dialogue that we've been having on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, I think we do have to have level heads, and we have to make sure that we don't overplay this thing either. I mean, frankly, the state is the one that's overplaying this thing because they're letting a highway get to the point where it's unsafe to travel on, and we don't have to fix that. And in fact, we probably benefit from the Thruway going bad. So I think we have to be careful on how we play this thing. But I think the bigger point to be made here is that the road is increasingly becoming unsafe, and that our message to anybody, any traveler, whether they're our friends and neighbors or whether they're passersby, that's a section of the Thruway that you might be better off skipping and jumping on the Route 20.
We can't forget too that this isn't just 90. The 86 is just as bad on the Allegheny section.
Well, do you remember what happened in 86?
Well, I know that the big section was washed out, and the DOT guys said that there's actual, like, the trailer wheels from semis.
Yeah,
the whole dual wheels. No, they broke off and rolled into the weeds, and they pulled. They had more than once, and they had one set that was way out too far. They couldn't get it with the hook, so it was still out there for the longest time. I don't know if they got it yet, but the wheels actually go over the bank, and jeez. So that's how bad they were. But that was like 2 years ago.
But yeah, it was a couple of years ago that a 300-foot section of of Interstate 86 on Seneca territory fell off, dropped out. The whole
dropped into the river.
2 lanes, and it was on the westbound lane. The outside lane dropped off. It fell into the river, or off the bank anyway. I mean, that's how bad the state and again, there are federal funds involved that Governor Cuomo is redirecting to other areas. So you see all the highway work being done in some sections and other places that are completely neglected.
The roads are always nice in Albany.
Yeah, they certainly are nicer there. But I mean, you can tell where the political favors are being paid and where they're not. And again, when you consider what the governor's language is, he is clearly trying to punish Senecas unsuccessfully, at least as far as the Thruway is concerned. We do use the 86, Interstate 86. We have to because they shut down the other road, the alternative Route 17.
When they flooded up.
So they destroyed that road, so we don't have any choice. but to use what is now considered Interstate 86. But yeah, that road was, I mean, some of the holes and the potholes in that thing over the years were so bad you could literally blow a tire, hitting those potholes. That's how bad it was. And so there's Interstate 86.
City of Salamanca. I know that's also getting scrutiny for having such poor conditions down there. I've been working down there over the summer, and just till like the last couple of weeks, a crew came through and patched up most of the roads, but it was pretty rough down there. It's still pretty rough in some places down there.
Yeah.
But they're putting lines over, so I guess.
Yeah. Paint lines around the hole. So yeah, I saw in one city that people were using the potholes and they were putting planters, turning them into planters, and planting like trees in them. Yeah.
Birthday cake.
Yeah. There you go. But again, I think it's important that as people get incensed, I guess, or pissed off about the governor's comments, and, just remember, if he makes the throughway go to crap, that's not a bad thing for us. And it's a reflection. It's more of a reflection on him and the state than it certainly is on the Seneca Nation. And the idea that he's trying to leverage, letting the throughway go to crap, the way he is, as some sort of pressure for the Senecas to pay, for this.
He's not making us look bad.
What's that?
He's not making us look bad.
No, it actually makes him look kind of pitiful and pathetic. And I know he doesn't like the whole. He and his brother don't like the whole mafia, organized crime, stuff. But Governor, I don't blame you for being offended by Italian people being characterized that way. But if you don't want to be characterized that way, then stop trying to be a bully. Stop trying to be a strong arm, and stop trying extortion. If you don't want to be compared to some pathetic I don't know Comedy Central version of the mafia, then stop acting that way. Stop acting like a racist and stop acting like a moron. There's already a moron in the White House. It's bad enough there's one there. You don't have to try to keep pace. You're not running for president or anything. Yet. So I don't know. I think that we have to be logical, and I think we have to be smart about how we play this. And I think some of the conversations, and there's a lot of great conversations taking place on Facebook and on Twitter, and I just caution the news, because sometimes they can get they can get carried away with this stuff.
They can bite right into that and make the story bigger.
Well, and they can conflate the two issues, that the gaming revenue and the throughway issue. I don't understand why the media doesn't hold these people accountable. It's kind of like going back to the gaming revenue thing. I don't know how many times that I would see somebody write something that said, well, the Seneca's view is that there's no language in the compact that says anything about paying past 14 years. What do you mean the Seneca's view? Look at the freaking compact. Read it yourself. Yep. Don't say that's the Seneca's view. You as a reporter can say, having inspected the compact, the Senecas are correct. There's no language.
It's available online as a PDF.
Yeah, so when I hear people, and they try to mince their words, like, oh, yeah, the Seneca's got this twisted way of looking at things. No, it's called English language that you guys wrote. And so, and that's where the media kind of gets this thing screwed up. I say the same thing about, all of this, again, these people being enamored by Ruth Bader Ginsburg coming to Western New York and all that other stuff. The media was all over this thing, but you can't always make everybody into a champion. You have to be able to hold people accountable. So while we're trying to hold, Cuomo accountable, we want to hold people like Ginsburg accountable for some of her rulings. And again, can't say enough about her use of the doctrine of discovery in the case against the Oneidas. And but the media doesn't want to play any of that stuff, and so now Tom Reed is trying to use the media, to make this a Republican versus Democrat thing. I don't know. Is Tom Reed? What's his position? Is he warning people not to travel the throughway? Of course he won't go that far, and yet if he was really concerned about his constituents, that's what he would be suggesting. He would be telling his people, do not travel that section of the throughway. Get on, if you're going west, get on into Irving. If you're going east, get on into Eden, Angola. And that is the message that, that I want to give. But I will, this should be the constant message. This should be our drumbeat. Don't travel the section. Don't travel that section of thruway because it's dangerous. And it's not going to get better. Even if you don't travel it, it's not going to get better. It's still deteriorating day by day. And of course, we're coming into winter now. I mean, we're going to come into fall and winter. And this is where it's going to get even worse. There's going to be more corrosion. There's going to be more erosion, more expansion and contraction. There's going to be chunks, falling everywhere. You're going to have snow plows plowing chunks of asphalt, not just chunks of snow.
The fall and winter is not the time to be building a bridge. I mean, to fix it even.
Yeah. So, I mean, the reality is this isn't going to get fixed. I mean, it's too late to even start this project going into this year. So the best advice anybody can give at this point is don't travel it. I mean, and
shut down the commercial traffic. That's what I say.
And look, we don't have to threaten to shut it down. If the state wanted to be responsible, they'd shut it down. They'd shut it down, or maybe reduce it down a little farther, make it a 30-mile-an-hour speed zone, and that's really the recommendations that that Seneca leadership and the Seneca people should say. Look, just don't travel it. Just don't travel. And again, local politicians like Tom Reed and others. This should be their message. The message, you want to attack Cuomo, go ahead and attack him. We do it all the time too. But the message to your constituents should be just don't travel that section of road. Nope. It's dangerous.
Nothing over class 7.
Well, like I said, even passenger cars. I mean, the threat of a bridge collapse, it might be less for a passenger car, but it's still just a bad road to travel. I mean, there's just so much debris. And there's so much crap on the road, so much loose asphalt, and I mean, it is the shoulders of the road. If you had to pull out over there, if you ever had to pull over your car on that section of thruway, it would be like being in a war zone, because every vehicle going by is going to be kicking up gravel at you because there's stuff all over the road. And I've been in a situation before where a car was had an accident, and they'd actually taken out a bunch of the gravel that they put up on the side of a sidewall. And so it was spilled onto the highway. As we're trying to help somebody who was seriously injured, every car going by was, you could almost hear it
popping,
pieces of rock flying right by and that's what it's got to be like. So, a couple of things. For one thing, don't travel that section of the thruway. And if you do travel a section, don't pull over. Do not use the shoulder of the road. I mean, if you got a flat tire, drive that thing on the rim until you get to the next exit, because you don't want to be on the grass. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be on that section of the road and have vehicles passing by, because there's going to be an awful lot of debris kicking up. And that's, again, this isn't just us saying this. Tom Reed.
Take a ride for yourself and check it out.
Take a ride and you check it out yourself. But I mean, the fact that the Thruway Authority has signs up saying rough road, travel 45 miles an hour. That's a pretty good indication that they have been completely derelict in their responsibility. And keep in mind, the Senecas own the land. They gave them the right to be responsible and put a highway on there, and the state is shirking its responsibility. So this is a complete dereliction on a part of the state to provide a safe highway on lands that they were generously given permission to put that highway through. It may be time for the Senecas to seriously consider how it is that they take the land back. And I'm not saying, let's all spill out on this road to shut it down. I don't want to do that favor to Andrew Cuomo. Let him shut it down with his own ignorance and irresponsibility. That's what has to be done.
Federal transportation people come in and look at it.
Yeah, I mean,
if it's deemed unsafe, that's.
And it should affect highway funds. I mean, it is the interstate, so there is federal funding that comes in.
I think that's what Tom Reed's getting at.
Yeah,
because that was what the lady from Transportation Secretary, that's what she said before. For the overpasses, those bridges were already allocated money to get repaired, and he withheld them. Mm-hmm. That's why he got yelled at. That's why he got in trouble for that.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. I mean, there's no mincing words here. I mean, if you want to witness it, I mean, then be my guest and travel that section of road. But it is bad. It's as bad as what anybody has said. And in fact, if you travel that section of road, it's probably worse than you thought it would be. And again, I think it's we should do some closer inspection of that bridge, because and you're right to be that concerned about the bridge, because we know how bad the overpass bridges were. Mm-hmm. So we can only imagine how bad the bridge that goes over the Cattaraugus Creek, and it's a long bridge. It's not just a short bridge over a river. That covers it's a long, expansive bridge that goes over that whole marshy area on either side of the Cattaraugus Creek. So, look, you can only imagine how dangerous and how the state of disrepair that bridge has got to be in. So this is totally on the governor, and he's trying to spin this thing and play this thing in a way that is, I mean, we can get into immorality and all that other stuff, but there's clearly a racist bent that Andrew Cuomo has towards the Senecas, and the idea that he is actually, again, withholding funds or redirecting funds, throughway funds, to avoid. I mean, look, we see all the work they're doing on other sections of the throughway, and it for every section that they fix, it makes this section look even worse. I mean, and it's not just about appearance; it's reality. The throughway is unsafe, and all we can say is don't travel it. All right. Well, that about wraps it up, folks. So I want to thank Matt for joining me. It's good to have you come in. I know we've been.
Thanks for having me in.
Oh, sure, anytime. The door is always open. Although we do run later, so
sorry about showing up at 10:02, but
it's okay. You don't need an invitation. You can just walk in anytime. But thanks for joining us. This was a great conversation, and I appreciate you participating in it. All right, folks. This is Let's Talk Native for today, and we'll be back here on Saturday. So, I am in New York on Thursday, so you can check out my show Let's Talk on WBAI. You can listen to that watch us on Facebook Live, and you can listen to us on www.wbai.org. This is John Kane for Let's Talk Native. We'll see you.
Razor wire cut you to the bone, son. It can make meanest long for home, and it's a crying shame. Just yourself to blame. Every morning when the sun comes up, you stand in your cage like a